wherever they live or whatever. Say they have to save like a month, right, to buy, you know, a lamp, like an extra bit of their money every month to buy a lamp. And then, like, if I just walk into the woods and make them a lamp out of random shit, or like say a table, right? So they want to buy a table from like the government, using government money, or I'm in the woods and I make a fucking table, and then they can just give me their coins. But then I guess you're saying that the money is restricted through like payment terminals, so there's no way they can actually like give me any money.
Yeah, all money is private. I even considered like limiting your ability to hoard it over time.
But then how do you get?
Or like you only have like that's what I mean. That's why I'm not sure if I actually want to do it. The purpose of limiting it is that somebody else can, like, remember what I said about my, like, I don't want my money to not just sit in my bank account and not serve a purpose. Therefore, like, if you limit it to your monthly thing, then there's only so much you can spend and store over time. So
would you have basically a system of like loaning and borrowing?
That's what I'm wondering. Like basically the concept of trade has to die in this setting in order for it to work ideally. But then the question is, how do you measure idealness, if that's what I mean by ideally?
Well, would you basically be like, hello, I'm going to a party. I want 5 gold rings and a silk dress and a headdress, and I want it for one day. And my daily clothing allowance is 10 units of credit, and I will use 8 units of credit on my like party outfit, and then it will be returned the next day.
I think the rent economy would work fucking wonders.
Yeah.
Like, that circumstance seems like it would be fine, no problem.
That's kind of how it is, because like people say that
because
a lot about,
because again, I don't want money sitting around and doing nothing, but that can apply to any fucking resource. So if you can, like, if you're using this dress for one day and then you're handing it in, then Yumiya showed up, quick deal with her, take her out.
But that's the thing, like,
Isaac, I don't know where your laser pointer is going, but you need to aim at you. Sorry. Remember chat? Okay, fine.
Like, well, they said that, I think, like, Neil deGrasse Tyson was talking about it with, like, Amazon drones, where it's like...
what does he say about Amazon drones?
Well, the idea of, like, you have a power drill in your house, right? And you never...
Okay.
Yeah, and you never use it. You use it, like, once a year. You bought this power drill, and you fucking never
you should be able to just lend it up. Like, there should basically be a... what do you call it? Like, a neighborhood shed. Where people just can fucking go and
that's what the thing would be like Amazon. So like Amazon set up drones, and then you say,
and they just rent it. Yeah. That would
I want a power drill. Like, bring me I need a power drill, and the drone just grabs it and flies it.
The way you were phrasing that made it sound so witchy. Bring me my drill.
Yeah. So it's just like a case of requesting. But say like, yeah. So. But then what would happen in a situation where it's like, I went to a party and like I was, 2 people I met someone there, they were renting like, a beautiful scarf, and then something happened at the party, and like, they were leaving they were going on holiday to another country and something, or like they're leaving the country or they die or something, and you're like, I want to keep. Let me start it. So
the person you're renting it from.
No, so say you don't rent from people. You rent everything from the government. The government owns everything.
I guess yes. True.
So
you have to go via the government at least.
Yeah. So you go to a party, right? You meet someone there. And they have, they're all their clothes. They're wearing some nice, fancy, government rent or something. And then and it's all good and amazing, and like you get to know them, or say they're renting this ring for like 2 weeks because they really like the design, right?
Okay.
And then that person like dies suddenly, right?
The person renting the ring.
Yeah, dies suddenly, and you're like, you were best friends with them when they die. Then you say, can I keep the ring for like sentimental value because it was theirs and they loved it and they're dead now, and it's like I want to remember them and keep the ring.
What do you do? What would you do, Isaac?
What would the government say to that?
I think you sort of have to measure sentimental value for the sake of society. Otherwise, like, you can't just emotionally cripple everyone.
Yeah, but then say I say that, I get to keep the ring, and then I can use the ring as like a bar.
Like again, I feel like you should be able to make a case for it. Because like the emotional value could exceed the practical value. I think you have to be willing and able to make those assessments.
But would you have some system of like, yes, we have allowed for this ring to be allocated to you because of sentimental value. Each month you must place.
You have like an automated message.
It has to be a fucking massive AI to run this fucking country.
No, it's just very hard to trust people because of past experience. But
so then it's like you will be given this ring, but once a month you must place this identifiable ring in the government building socket entry 4, and then so we can scan it to ensure that you still own it and you haven't traded it for fucking something else. So it's like the government has to like keep inventory that you still have the thing they're letting you have.
Like that doesn't even make sense. Like, okay, no, you just assume that it's out of cycle. Like, at that point, it doesn't matter. But you just have to try. Like, you're losing more resources trying to track this shit than just trusting them.
Yeah, but then now the ring becomes a version of currency.
No, it only becomes a version of currency if they're gonna try and trade with it. At which point, you should have the ability to track it. What do you? Well, then, like if it shows up in a case later on, like you find it in a place where it shouldn't be found, then you'd be like, what the fuck is going on here? But you shouldn't be so anal about it that you're wasting money. But
it's like, well, it had sentimental value, but then I met someone new and they really liked the ring, so then I gave it to them because my like for them was more
petition. Like, you're just gonna have to go through the system. At which point, if it does end up somewhere it shouldn't be, you go naughty, okay? But don't fucking like. You only cross that bridge once you get there. I don't see the point in trying to create problems by trying to solve them. Yes, no, maybe. We disagree fundamentally. It sounds like you're trying to find something to disagree about here.
Well, no, because it's like your whole thing is that there's no. It's like money is controlled and there's no like money and currency and everything. But like, as soon as you give people other things they own, then you just get a new currency of just trading goods.
Yeah, but like I said, I'm not even sure I want to be overly anal about the ability to trade, because it's sort of built in, like, sharing is caring.
Yeah, but then it's like you can then sort of like. It's kind of. It can be like, oh, how did you get that ring? It's like, oh, well, you know, I lied to the government there, sentimental value, and so then it becomes like a new market of people having like the skill you're promoting to people to have is how efficiently they can like lie to the government to get stuff. So it's like,
yeah, kind of.
So people kind of like.
Do you feel like there's an excessive amount of incentive to do that? You're generally concerned?
Yeah, because, well, in the sense of like, because you never get to keep anything. Having anything on your own becomes like a status symbol. So like...
No, Isaac. It's only a status symbol if nobody cares about the fact that you're stealing from the government and thereby everybody else.
But then it's like, it depends on the
standards. It's heavily contingent on that. Like, again, like there's so much social credit involved here because you have no real monetarily credit. Like everybody's fucking accounted for, Isaac. This is a functional utopia, right? That's basically hypothetical. And then you find that somebody's stealing from the government. Like, what the fuck would you think of that person?
But they're not stealing from the government.
Isn't that is what you said though? They're basically stealing from the government. You're telling me that everybody's trying to any sort of resource you have is a status symbol, is what you're saying.
But then, if
you're gonna you're gonna have to fucking make an argument for that. I'm not gonna make that assumption.
If you're able to steal from the government, people won't think you're a bad person. You steal from the government. They'll think you're so intelligent. You managed to get the government to give you stuff.
I don't. No, I'm just gonna say no, and then you're gonna have to make the argument for it.
Well, that's how it is now.
No, flat out no.
Loads of people are like, whenever you're like, oh, I got a discount from doing this, or I set up my bank account to transfer this, and I got like, I avoided tax by setting up my company in like fucking Singapore instead. And it's like people are like, oh, that's so smart. You got loads of money. Wow, that's really clever. They're not like, you should be funding the NHS with your taxes.
Did we? Like, it feels like you're fucking changing your mind for the sake of argument at this point. We fucking talked about this earlier. Like people technically already operate under social currency. It's just what we consider social currency is different. Again, if you're provided for, and you're still like, I don't know, hoarding resources, you don't think people would look at that sideways? Like, why do you have all this shit?
What if you're smart enough to convince people that the social currency should be different and that like stealing from the government is the better social currency?
Okay, how about you try convincing me since I'm not?
No, because you... But like, there are loads of dumb people with low IQ that just fucking were like, oh, shiny.
True, but again, I believe that it would be automatically socially reinforced that people would innately look down on those people. Like, if you have a bunch of shit and you can't explain where it's from, people even look down on that these days. Like, I know you don't have a job that could pay for all this shit. Where the fuck is all this shit coming from? The people assume that they do illegal shit. Do you think people look up to those people? I'm kind of lost.
Some people do.
Some people, sure.
Lots of people do.
Adventure time.
Lots of people do.
Ooh.
Okay, fine, you win the argument.
Well, it's like there's a whole, like, enough of
Your
it.
answers
Like,
will never work.
well, how do you split? So say like 10% of the population thinks that stealing from the government is cool, right?
Okay.
Then they all choose to hang out with each other.
Off we go.
Okay.
So then you make a smaller society within the bigger one, and then you just have like smaller groups.
What? You make a
Everybody stand back.
What was in like social currency, right? So if your social group who you choose to spend with all your time with is other people that think stealing is cool, then, and you only hang out with people that think stealing is cool, then you just perpetuate that stealing is cool.
Even better
And
than
the social currency for that group is that you should steal things.
I mean, you
So the
technically have
criminals
a
hang out with
mentality-
other criminals.
Yeah,
'cause they all
but
agree with
Isaac, you're describing the current system, and they have a different name. We don't call them criminals; we call them capitalists.
Right, but that's like in this utopia.
We just have a rule set for how you're allowed to extract money out of people.
But like in this utopia, if enough people hang out with each other that think it's like smart and cool that you were able to like convince the government to give you shit.
Yeah, again, that's what capitalists do. Like, that's basically like Trump's
Yeah.
entire.
So how would you
empire.
stop that? How would you stop that? Because the social
Like,
currency
stop
would change
people
based on
from-
the social group you're in. So like, if
When
90
everybody's accounted for and people see people hoarding resources, I think people innately look down on that. America's just fucking insane. Like, if you look at any other society, it usually doesn't work that way.
they're not hoarding useful resources.
Like, because
like
what
a
people
ring.
see is unfairness. Why do you have more resources than I do? That's how
But it's
people
not-
usually think.
The difference in resources
Do
in
you
terms
disagree?
of like, no, but then it's like the resources aren't like
Then
food
why
or
the fuck would
water.
people suddenly go, oh, it's cool that you have more resources than others, even though I can't explain how the fuck you got them?
But it's not resources.
Yeah, that's what?
It's like
That's what we're talking about. What do you mean it's
no,
not
because
resources?
like a gold ring isn't a resource.
It is. Like,
Not- Not functionally the
depends.
same as like having food.
true.
So it's like if you're in a utopia where
Yeah, so
everyone has
that's what I'm
food
saying.
and
Like,
shelter
depending on
and
how
water.
you value it, like, you don't really care about the trade, which is why we're going to figure out how much I want to restrict it.
Well, like,
But the problem
no,
is,
so say
but again, like, it's sort of the it's sort of how people skew value that is also part of the problem. Like, again, like in a perfectly rational society, people should be able to just trade whatever the fuck they want. The problem is you have people who become like drug addicts where they overvalue drugs to the point where they're willing to starve themselves and kill themselves in the process.
Isn't rationality based on intelligence?
I mean,
So if you have
you're sort of saying the same thing. Like, we pretty much equate rationality with intelligence. So I don't know what you...
But like,
what are you getting at?
Say in this utopia, right? You like walk into a room and everyone is wearing the same clothes, right? And they're all
that would be a uniform.
right. So like,
Hence the term uniform.
so everyone's looking really similar, but then there's one dude with a gold ring.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, why? You go up to him and like, oh, why do you have a gold ring? It's like, oh, someone I knew used to wear it all the time and they died, so the government let me have it.
Yeah.
And you'd be like, oh, that's nice. And then the next week, you see like someone else with a gold ring.
Again, like, people have some degree of personal monetary freedom. So it's depending how you structure it, whether or not that looks weird. Like, I think you need to have like a fucking, I don't know, fucking dude with like 12 Bugattis in a mansion and that sort of shit where you're like, okay, this is
Didn't you say
clearly
there was
off.
like a cost limit per day?
That's one of the things I considered.
You
Yeah,
can't hold money.
that was one of the things I considered. So depending which hypothetical we're operating with, it does become absurd. Yes.
Well, yeah, well, like say I want a gold ring and it costs like 20,000, and then my daily limit is 10,000, so I'll never ever be able to get a ring
like,
ever.
Then obviously there are just things that are straight up off limit, which means if you see it, then something's very off.
But say it's like the only way to get it if it's not off limits and it's expensive.
You're sort of also operating with a what's the term? A current day mindset as to how we value things. Like, we value gold rings because we value gold rings today. Like,
yeah, it could be anything. Like whatever.
Yeah, that's sort of my point. So why the gold ring?
Less value.
So why are you focusing on the gold ring? Why couldn't it just be literally
as an example? Yeah. Well, like, it's just a placement for like a high value item.
Yeah, but depending on what the high value item is, it could be more or less feasible or reasonable.
Yeah, but it's like in this society, the high value item is still high value. It doesn't matter what it is, right? So like,
what do you mean it doesn't matter what it is?
Well, I'm saying like within this utopia, there will be items that have a higher value than others, right?
Yeah.
So people will want the high value items, right?
But what makes them high value?
Well, I don't know. Whatever, because you're saying that I can't. I'm thinking with the current mindset, so I don't know what the mindset will be in this utopia. So I'm saying whatever the high value item is, regardless of physically what it is.
Yeah, but I want you to think about this, because what gives something value means that it might not be relevant in this context.
Well, people will assign value to any things or anything or whatever it is. There will be something that has a high value.
And why should I humor whatever the fuck people are? Like, why am I caring about this?
Because people will want it.
Okay, what the fuck am I gonna do about it? They can want anything and everything, so why the fuck should I even...
And then people are like, we want this, and the government's like, no, you can't have it, and then they're like, oh, well, we're gonna just destroy the government and get it.
Okay, I guess I win.
Like, well then, you don't make, how do you keep the population happy if they all decide they want something?
Time to go.
Yeah, I literally can't stop people. Like, if literally all of them want something, how the fuck am I gonna stop them?
That's why it's like...
I don't even know how to humor this thought process, because like, value is very individual, but I'm also operating on what's likely to be valued in different environments and societies. And I'm saying, like, if you're in a society where everything is provided for, you will not value the same things as you do here.
Right, but then
like,
there's always going to be a situation where...
is a status symbol because it's valuable,
Okay.
because it's scarce, because we live in a world with scarcity. When there's an abundance of everything, why the fuck would you even value this gold ring?
So there's a guy and there's a girl, and then the guy likes the girl, but the
You
girl
lost
doesn't
me.
like the girl doesn't like the guy.
Everybody
So
That should be illegal.
right,
People
and then
have to like each
he's
other.
thinking, what can I do to make her like me more?
Been there, yeah.
Right? So then it's like, I'm gonna do something. There must be something I can do to improve my chances with being with this woman, right?
Yeah, and I'm saying, like, okay,
Brings a smile.
you're like, I can see you're basically going through this by proxy at this point. You're assuming that she values the gold ring, therefore he values the gold ring. I'm saying, why the fuck would anybody value the gold ring? And
No, like forget the gold ring
Okay.
completely. Okay, so he now wants to improve his perception, her perception of him, right?
yeah,
So there must be a way for him to demonstrate that his value is better than some other guy, right? Because say she likes she's like she likes this guy and not this guy, and say the one guy that she doesn't like wants to.
didn't I
you
address
know,
this before?
I think,
Like how people will value each other is like based on value provided to society generally. Like when
but how do I know if this person has
Oh.
more value to society than someone else?
yeah, because we're basically in a government database.
So it's just like
Yeah, because there are very few external signifiers.
there's no status symbols. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
like
it's
status symbols aren't really like. I guess it would be like a diploma on your wall or whatever the fuck, or like.
It's like, well, literally, like everyone has a scanner and they like walk up to someone and they're like,
Yeah, like you basically would have like registration as to like this is who you are, this is what you do, therefore this is of your value. So it'd probably be incredibly unsexy. I mean, okay, but basically the government could provide you with like, ooh, status plaques. I don't fucking know, depending on.
But then if I can
Fuck it is
forge
either.
a plaque, then the woman will like me. So how do I get the materials to forge the plaque? Then I go into the woods and dig and like dig up my own gold and then make my own plaque and pretend
Okay.
I've done this.
Okay.
So it's,
Good
then
for
you
you.
get a secondary market and, then
And
it's
nobody
like,
could ever possibly discover that you've done this, therefore you win, Isaac.
why not?
What do you mean, why
Someone
not? I'm
could-
agreeing with you.
Well, that's the thing. Like so,
I
like
disagree.
like you're saying the plaques are something now. Is the plaque is the high value item in place of the gold ring? The plaque is now what everyone wants because the plaque directly links to like your value in society because that plaque dictates that
I mean,
you
I
gave
think some of the
value.
verifiability is also the value. It's just that the plaque itself is almost like a novelty award. It's just giving you a physical representation of your achievement, just like a diploma. It's just that I think for people's own sort of desire for
Everybody stand back. This will brighten up the place.
like something to represent the achievement. I don't really know how else to phrase this. Like they want something they can look at that is that has some fucking pomp and circumstance behind it. I don't know what else to say.
But I'm just thinking because it's like
But you're very focused on everybody's going to cheat for this shit, and
well, no, people will like want like people will inherently go for like the path of least resistance. Like if I can like get the same thing that someone else has like 10 times easier, I'll do it.
sure.
So it's like
And how long
That-
do you think people would like get away with this before people are just like, well, maybe you should
I don't
scan
know
the
what the
thing for a
system-
barcode and see if
Yeah,
it's
it
the real
depends.
deal, etc.
what if I'm the guy that works in the database and I put all the shit on there and I'm the one who pretends like I start
Isaac, of course, there's going to be weak points everywhere. Like, you have to operate with the assumption that the process works. Otherwise, there's no point in the process or discussing the process. Because we can just say, well, it doesn't work, and then it doesn't work because that's the hypothetical now. So,
then it's like but then it's not really a utopia then because it's like something doesn't work.
That's why I say we have to operate with the assumption that the system itself works, and then we can address the system itself and the structure of the system. Just saying that, you know, there's going to be a weak point here, then it's like, okay, well, we can make the assumption, but I'd rather you point out like a problem with the protocol itself, not that the protocol doesn't work because of some arbitrary element we can't control. Like saying human error, like that's just fucking catch-all to anything. Like you can fucking give me any arguments you want, and I can just say human error and end of the discussion. I agree or disagree. Or I might not be making my point clear. I mean, like.
No, it's a case of like, yeah, like you need to make sure there's still a way of demonstrating value.
Yeah, because I mean, I don't want to make it difficult for people, but honestly, like if you value truth, then again, I would just see like, well, look up this person on the database, see if it checks out, and then you know whether or not it's real. Instead of just looking at the fucking plaque, like it seems eminently solvable.
Assuming that the person is like smart enough, or you know, knows to look up
assuming that the database hasn't been hacked and there's like super gigachat hackers everywhere,
like,
and
assuming that the like, say I'm in a room with someone and I have a plaque, and then
a room that's cheating.
So like, you're in a room and then you're like, oh, look at all my plaques for, you know, being so valuable. And then it's like, oh, well, how do we verify that they're real plaques? Oh, well, you have to like go and check on the database, where it's like,
pretty much.
Oh no, trust me, they're real, you know. I'm like, okay, let's sleep
well,
together
then it's
and
on
have
you
a
for
baby.
believing it. Like I've given you a process for you to follow, you're just ignoring it.
Then it's like some people are like low IQ. So
they sure are, Isaac. And how much should I humor them?
Well, that's the thing. So like, should you in society, like, well then what's your, like, you're saying people kind of, it's their fault if they believe the person lying or whatever. But is it their fault if they're just like dumb? It's not their fault they were born stupid, is it?
No, but there's only so much you can do to accommodate for people who are stupid, and you know this too. There's only so much you'd be willing to humor this argument on your side. Yeah. Your argument would be to purge them from the gene pool anyway, so you wouldn't fucking humor this for half a second.
Peanut allergy people.
Exactly, and you probably dislike stupid people more than people with allergies, so why the fuck would you humor this?
Well, if I had the utopian AI, I'd round up all this.
Yeah, here we fucking go.
Here we go. Can? What's the like?
Can leave without you?
I wonder if there's like a.
Yes.
How common is it that like intelligent people give birth to like stupid kids, and like the other way around? Is like intelligence and all this stuff like more genetically like passed on?
There's like such different ways to measure it. I can't like say yes or no, but there are a lot of circumstances where parents from like low-income parents who are stupid and haven't been able to earn money or like get a good sense of living give their child a better chance, and they grow like they're like eminently better off than their parents. Happens a lot.
Yeah. But then is it like just the parents didn't have the opportunity to cultivate their inherent intelligence?
It's difficult to say. Like sometimes it seems like they definitely are inherently stupid, but it could also be that their upbringing was fucking atrocious and it just has lifetime effect. So again, it's not exactly easy to measure this shit, so good luck.
But then is it different to say like in general, like intelligence is like passed on?
Yeah, of course. Like your capacity for intelligent thinking is always going to be limited by your genetics. The question more becomes like how prominent is the epigenetic effect? How strong are the environmental factors on the genes? But like your genes decide whether or not you even have a brain. So like if you're missing that, how are you expecting any sort of intelligent behavior? Like remove the brain gene. Good luck.
Yeah. What was that book I reckon? Like, the system you're describing is similar in this fucking book I read by Ursula Le Guin. What was it called? Fucking Departed, I think? No.
Great movie.
Maybe it was called that later.
The Departed?
It's like a sci-fi book, and there's like a society, and there's like no currency, and all the like...
Yeah. Sounds about right.
All the like institutions and like organizations and like what people do on is all like government mandated, and like you
see, she gets it.
You can start anything you want, and then you can kind of like get funding for it because it's like anyone can do what they want.
No, you can't really start anything you want. It has to...
Dispossessed, that's it.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So it's like...
Dispossessed.
So it sounds almost what you're saying, where it's like... You have these... You basically have... You can go and live wherever you want, and like... There's these like halls and sleeping places, and like you can just say, oh, I want to go in, stay here now, and then you get a room, and then there's like a community kitchen, and like everyone has to do a minimum of like this many hours or something per week or something of like community work, like, you know, you're a chef in the kitchen for a day or something, unless you get like government exemption because you're currently working on like a scientific project. So everyone has like a minimum like community service they have to do, unless it's like authorized by the government and they don't have to do it.
Fuck, I just realized that might be a reason why I don't want to have like complete removal of private trade or the ability to build up resources over time. Because I want people to like be able to have private projects ongoing that might not necessarily be government funded because they don't see the value in it, but it's...
I think that's exactly what happens in this book. I think it's like there's something like the scientific research, the like avenues they choose to research. There's like someone in charge of the society, and they basically don't select people because it's like they're only good at one area of science, so they keep hiring people that they can basically like add their name to the accreditation for like the research. It's like, I'll approve your project if you let me put my name on it so that I get credit as well as you for your project, because I'm like in charge of the whole like organization.
Yeah, so they're almost... So we're talking social credit again being a weird form of currency. Yeah. So
it's kind of, it like leads in a wrong way because this guy has like, oh, I want to do this kind of research instead. And he's like, no, like you can't do it unless you help me with my project.
Time to go.
And or like, I won't fund you, so he has to start his own thing. No. But then it's like the government doesn't approve it because it's
evil.
Whatever the government's reasons are. So like, like the private projects where like no one believes in your idea, but then you fund it yourself and make it, and then they believe it because you've been able to show a proof of concept from your own funding.
Yeah.
So like,
You see, like that's the kind of shit I consider real sci-fi.
So that is that book.
Because it's humoring actual scientific premises, even if psychology and people consider it a soft science and everything. But like to me, that's more sci-fi than fucking Star Wars, which is space fantasy.
Yeah. And that's cool. Why I like the Dispossessed, because it's because you also have a contrasting. It's like that basically it's like a moon, right? And the society went to live on this moon, and the whole society is built around the fact that they're like terraforming the moon, and that's why they have such a big like community service thing, because it would be like, you've been assigned planting trees on continent 2 for the next 12 months, and then it's like you basically go work on a farm for 12 months, to plant trees for like the global plan, right? So when you're 18, you go and plant trees in the farm for a year. Like everyone does it. So then there's this kind of mix of like community service mixed with like you can like pitch your own projects, or like, oh, I want to work in education, and then it's like you kind of just go and work there, and they have to find a space for you. Or like, I want a job as a teacher, and they're like, okay, the system says 1 space for teacher in continent 5, and then you go to continent 5. Basically, it's like it's also it's like they're managing that where they're like, and it's a complete no currency like community, like society, and then but there's still the planet they all like escaped from. That's like they orbit, and so like their whole society is based on like do not communicate and contact or have anything to do with the planet we came from. Yeah, and part of the story is where
is it because they're capitalists that they ruin everything?
But that's part of it. Like part of it is that they're capitalist basically. The capitalist
fucking called it.
The capitalist planet has the like funding and research and like facilities to like build these like massive spaceships, but there's a guy on the moon who's he's the one that's like creating the like science and theory for them to like work. So he wants to do this like partnership where they like trade ideas with the the evil fucking capitalist planet, and like goes and visits them, and like so it's like this merging of the ideas where it's like the whole moon is like, we're our own society, don't talk to them, they're the capitalists, they think differently, we need to be our own thing, we're just self-sufficient and blah blah blah. And then his thinking is like, okay, we need to develop this technology and then share it to the universe so that all of humanity like
can benefit from our knowledge.
Yeah, but then they're like, we're not going to fund you researching it because you're going to give it to the galaxy, and then we don't want want to deal with the rest of the galaxy because they're all capitalist monsters. And he's like, yeah,
but what the fuck doesn't it depend on their ability to like chase it back to them? Isn't that what the entire thing is contingent on? Like, not whether or not the information gets out there, but how it gets out so that they can track it back and start fucking with them. No?
It's more, I'm trying to remember. It's like, it's basically more to do with the...
It feels sort of arbitrary to me.
It's to do with more of like the capitalist society like infecting theirs. So it's like...
Yeah, but how would he do that from information propagating out, not in?
Time to go.
Like, again, the only way that they can fuck with them is if they track it back to them. That's what I'm saying.
Because I think it's because it's like information sharing. Like, there's something at the beginning of the... It's like propaganda. It's like the government doesn't allow communication out or in to the moon. So it's like... Or it's like filtered or something. Because basically the government's just stopping any risk of like capitalist ideas coming in, right? So there's like there's a loophole.
This conversation feels extremely communist. That's just cracking me up.
And like
whenever we're just saying like capitalist scum.
But it's weird because what they do, like they almost like allow scientific works to be exchanged in and out, but like nothing else. So like research papers and like scientific studies and theories and all this like knowledge of like science is kind of like allowed to be communed in and out, but only to like the science organization.
You mean like transport?
Well, they don't allow radio signals and shit, so it's like they have to like actually transport books.
Yeah, but the word commune does make...
Communicated.
There you go. Okay, yeah, like, I was assuming it was something like that, but I was wondering...
So it's basically like... The guy who's trying to... The main character who's developing this scientific theory, that he's thinking... Now that our society is doing well and it works, and like it's better than this capitalist society, we need to be more like external and like communicate with the rest of the galaxy and like give our ideas and technology, and like by us creating this amazing technology.
Yeah, but that was one person's argument. The others were disagreeing.
Well, they were like, by opening up and like sharing, it lets the capitalist ideas in. You know what I mean? So it's like...
Yeah, but I don't follow that line of logic. I understand what you're saying. I do not actually understand what you mean.
Well, maybe... It's basically that... It's like the moon, they're basically keeping the population away from knowledge of like the benefits of capitalism as well as the cons, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the assumption is the government is like, if we open up transport and we let capitalists come here and all this shit, it's like they'll start introducing money to people and the idea of money, and like they'll bring all these fancy things, and then people will want them, and then the whole society will crumble because people will start becoming capitalist. So it's like they don't want the way of thinking of the other planets to like get onto their planet. It's like a disease, right?
Do they know that they're... I don't understand. Like, do they even know about the existence of the planet?
Yeah.
But they don't know which fucking belief, like which sort of economic system that they have?
Imagine if you're living in England.
I don't understand like which sort of information they have or why or how.
They just know that like this planet is evil capitalist. That's it. They know nothing else.
No. The outside world to their world. What information do they have?
Nothing either.
But they know it exists.
Yeah.
But they do not know how it operates. Can they visit?
No.
I
literally like the moon, this like moon planet, right? Like no one is allowed there. Ever. Apart from like resource transport ships in a specific zone where they just drop materials and then leave, right? No one has visited the moon since it was founded. And then no one has seen what goes on there. And then it's the same the other way. Like the government on the moon doesn't tell anyone on the planet like videos or newspapers or anything. All they know is that like this planet is there and it's bad because it's capitalist, and that's where we came from and left there because it was so awful and there was wars and shit.
I don't understand how the release of the information of AA philosophy is supposed to get people to fuck with them all of a sudden. I just can't follow that line of logic.
Well, imagine if you don't
unless they basically put their stamp on it, like, come here and find us. This is where this information came from, motherfucker. Like,
No, it's like, imagine if you grew up in, like, China, and you didn't know that, like, say in China they don't have, I don't know, say they don't have pearls in China, right? Like, there's no pearls or oysters in the oceans near China. So no one in China has ever seen a pearl ever, right? So suddenly I go to China and I've got loads of pearls. And then everyone in China's like, oh, I want these. And like,
time to go.
And I'm like, okay, well, you need to...
Did you tell them where you're from?
No. Yeah, well, like, yeah, I'm from England.
Okay, well, maybe skip that part. See how far they get. Like,
but it's like,
this is like what I'm saying. Like, you basically need to put your fucking stamp on it in order for people to figure out what the fucking. I don't. There has to be some fucking hint to start with. Like, you could just claim he's from literally anywhere else. I don't. Do they have ways of knowing? I don't understand why they would make the assumption.
No, yeah. So you've got right on the moon. The main character's from there. Right?
Okay,
he's a scientist.
Okay. Are they different races? Like they can just look at him and go, he's from the... Okay, well, fuck.
But then it's literally like, imagine if an alien landed on Earth, right?
Yes.
Like, but they were invited here. So there's a massive ceremony.
And like, he looks human. This alien looks human.
Yeah, he's just a human. Yeah. Just imagine
a human alien. That is a little.
Well, the same example. There's an example of like in the UK in the like 1700s or 1600s or something, where
Yep.
there's a Polynesian man called Mai, which is like a massive 50 million pound painting in the National Portrait Gallery.
Love the guy.
He was the first ever Polynesian person ever to come to London or England.
I
like,
wish you
ever.
just stopped it right there. He's the first ever Polynesian ever.
Yeah. And so when he comes, he's
That would be a
basically he's
bold
like
fucking
he's like a
claim.
curiosity. He's like everyone wants to see him, be around him. He's
So
like
they
massive
shove him
news.
in a shove him into the museum.
And like so everyone wants to like talk to him and be his friend and know him and see him, and like he's just a massive like celebrity because he's just from somewhere else, right?
Sure.
That is what the main character is, because the main character is like, the story goes through his life on the moon and whatever, and him like realizing that like, for me, like this theory that I've invented, this technology is so good. It's like it would benefit so many people, and like it would prove that our society works, our communist society works, because this technology is so good. So if we give it to the galaxy, they might stop the way that they behave and become more like us, because it's like it's a demonstration of how good our society is, because we can come up
But that's
with ideas like
their
this.
problem. That doesn't affect them. That's why I can't follow.
Because the moon government are literally just completely black and white about it. They're like, we do not
Okay.
want any communication with anyone outside.
Okay, you
because...
say black and white. I hear arbitrary.
Yeah, it is, because
Okay.
they're like, because it's literally
Okay,
like,
I mean, then there isn't really any confusion. I was just like, I was trying to figure out, is there any real rationality behind this? And now you're basically telling me no.
well, it's the rationality of the whole reason the whole moon society got set up was because that group of people left the capitalist planet because it was like World War III.
Yeah, but they're not gonna become capitalist because this information gets out. They're gonna become capitalists
no.
because capitalists come back in.
Yeah, so that's what they're worried about.
Yeah, but their line of logic is nonsensical
So
to
like
me. But
they
fine.
basically don't allow anything in or out.
Yeah,
Or
I
they
get
check
that.
they check everything, right?
Again, the arguments are what I have a problem with. Like,
Yes, which is what they
want is
discuss in the
clear,
book.
but oh yeah, point
So
your
yeah,
point.
the main character is like, okay, I understand that, like, yeah, you were like that before because capitalism is bad and da 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 da. But now that we're like solid and we like have proof and we're doing well,
Yeah.
we should be strong enough to like share things and give things to the galaxy and be part of it and not be like taken over by evil capitalist ideals, right?
Yeah, so that guy's rational, and I side with him.
Yeah, so that's why in the book he's like denied funding and like his government hate him and all the people in his society on the moon think he's weird and like
No one is the good
won't
guy. He's
support
correct.
him. Because they're thinking, oh, he's gonna bring capitalism. He wants capitalism.
This is really fun. It's like reverse democracy.
But then he's like, no, I don't.
We're
It's
gonna
like, I
bring
hate...
democracy across the world, and there's like
See,
we just want this.
He like goes to the capitalist planet, the first ever moon person to go there in like 300 years or something. And
Filthy moon person.
he and like all these people, like even the scientists on his planet before he leaves are like, you know, find out as much as you can. We want to know, you know.
What was
Like,
the name of this book? You say the
dispossessed.
Dispossessed. I almost said
Yeah.
discontented. Like that sounds like a fucking communist book.
Yeah. And like when he gets there,
Dispossessed.
he doesn't know anything about it, right? So he's there and he's like, he walks into like his hotel or his like, because he's treated like a king, right? Because he's, you know, got this scientific theory that could give like intergalactic space travel and stuff.
And people just flat out believe him.
Well, because he's like sent some scientific documents before, and like he's working on it and stuff, and they all want it. It's
Oh,
like
he's got what the fuck is that called again?
You, Glade. Our bond is strong.
No, it's tenure.
kind
Is
of
that
yeah.
what is that
Or
what
he's
it's
been
called when
yeah.
when you have like I don't know, believable history in
Kind of,
a
yeah.
scientific setting? like
10 years,
professorship.
well, I've heard of it as like you're at a university and you can't get fired because you're like protected.
Yeah, but it's credentials,
Similar.
isn't it? But yeah,
Yeah.
I mean that's one way of measuring it. Your likelihood of getting fired. No, how the fuck would you phrase that? The legality behind you being fired? I don't fucking know.
But like,
I don't either.
so he goes to the planet and he's like, sees how fucking terrible capitalism is, and like, because there's still like poor people, rich people, and riots, and like, you know, a society that has like
Yeah, of course.
resources that aren't managed, and
That's how I remember capitalism.
so then he thinks of it as like, so he goes to the planet, right, and he's like, fuck, like, do I want to give these people this? Because like,
Do you want to infect them with capitalism?
like, does he want to give the space travel to this fucking capitalist people?
Oh, because it can result in space travel. But that's fucking weird.
Yeah, because he thinks, okay, it's good to share the knowledge because it'll benefit everyone, and like they have the
But
resources
if the
to
wrong
actually
people
make
benefit,
Yeah, so he's
starts
like learning.
hesitating.
He's there and he's like learning about the society, and he's like, oh god, like he's second guessing himself, and he's like, oh okay, and then it's basically comes like the government of the planet that he goes to, the capitalist one. He figures out that they're basically like almost keeping him prisoner or like keeping him away from stuff, so he doesn't see like, you know, the poor people and the riots and things. And he basically like escapes the like government handlers that are like looking after him, and he basically finds like embassies on that planet for these like other groups of like intergalactic, you know, like
Why did my
think
head
like
autocomplete with
factions.
space monkeys?
it's like different
a default to
factions.
racism of people who don't even exist. What's wrong with me?
So it's like he finds there's like other factions of like humans that have different beliefs, you know what I mean? Like that you'll have
Sure.
ones that are like, you know, anti-war, or they've been, well, like they're much an older civilization, whatever. So there's like embassies of different like factions of different human groups within the galaxy and things that aren't capitalists, or they, you know, operate completely differently and blah blah blah. So like he goes to them instead. So it's like he is more like he's giving, he like gives the technology to sort of everyone instead of one people, because he's thinking, okay, if I give it to one, they'll use it as an advantage and then, like, you know, invade everyone else and blah blah blah. So it's kind of,
Good one.
it's like him battling with this like conscious thing of like, the society I'm from is like really nice and good, and I like it because I grew up there, and it's like fair and no one has money, and it's like if no one's poor, no one's rich. But then it can, like, we can benefit the universe, but then the people I wanted to give it to aren't that good. They're all the bad things that people said they were. But then does that mean everyone is, or can we like, should we work together with them to improve their capitalist society, and or will their capitalism like feed into our society and ruin it again? And so it like explores that idea quite well of like,
I mean, that was a lot of ideas, but okay.
yes, but I think that's book one of like,
Jesus.
is that she wrote a fucking massive, what's it called, like,
Something tells me this book wasn't popular. It's for smart people.
so it's one of 7 novels.
Cool.
It's an anarchist utopian science fiction novel.
Anarchist? Not okay. Well, I should. That's what I describe it as. But
Well, because I think there's the history of like how the moon got set up. It was like the anarchist founder who like broke away.
It starts as an anarchy. That
Yeah.
makes sense then. Okay, yeah, sure. You start from
So that's-
nothing and then build up society from scratch.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
then
that's
it's
the
like
sort of
that.
thing I find interesting. Like, how would that look like if you actually have knowledge of previous society, but you just decide to not operate with it and start from scratch?
Yeah. So that's like book
1.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think that's like almost at the end.
Mhm.
Let me check. Yeah, well, like, yeah, there's like, I've read, weirdly, because they're kind of, like, it's a massive, like, universe setting, so you can read, like, the books separately, because I think it spans across, like, a big space. But I've read books, like, 4 and 6, something, because they're, like, really separate. But then I think,
1,
Yeah.
4, 6.
no, just 4 and number 6.
Ah, I thought he said this was book 1, therefore he's...
No,
It isn't
no,
book 1?
this is book 6, but it's, like,
Okay.
I think,
I could mind.
yeah, it's not, no, book 1's something else. But then it's similar to, like, Asimov, like, Foundation and stuff. I think it's, like,
Yeah, I like the ideas of... what would you call it? Like, grand civilizations?
yeah.
But I did struggle with that book. Like,
Did you,
it was...
did you read iRobot?
Yeah,
The, like,
I prefer those.
section? Yeah, the short story.
Yeah, because the ideas are very concise and to the point, and
I love.
still explored in...
My favorite one was
Almost.
the like religious cult of robots.
Okay.
Do you remember that one?
Maybe if you elaborate a bit more.
So it's like they have these massive space stations that like transfer solar energy to each other, like across the solar system. And they have robots like managing the power stations. And there's like a problem on one of the space stations.
That
Like
sounds right, but I'm thinking of
Everyone hold hands.
the robot that... Oh, fuck.
because I think it's something like either there's robots keep getting destroyed or there's people there that like the crew like got killed or murdered by the robots or something. And what it turns out is like
I just remember a robot that was like circling a sun or something and couldn't figure out how... I don't
well,
even know
so
what
basically what happens like what had happened is the robots had almost like developed a religious cult around like
Our bodies
collect
strong.
the energy and send the energy to the new like
Yes.
into the like to the next you
Ooh,
know
the energy.
point in the path. And then so what they realized was like it's actually fine to leave these robots here to manage it on themselves, because even though there's some psycho-religious cult that believes in like the sun
They're
energy
functional. Yeah.
and they functionally do it. So like they do what they're told. They're like press the holy button to send the energy, and it's like okay, it operates.
Why
Like
don't I
we get what we
remember
want.
that? It's like, I remember all the technical aspects, but apparently the actual interesting part of the cult, I just like, I don't remember that.
Because a lot in that book, there's this sort of detective or whatever that goes around like like solving all the like problems as they're like developing robots. So they're like figuring out all the issues.
Because like the setting sounds familiar, but I remember like a robot like having a breakdown and somebody like trying to talk to it and losing communication, or like not being sure what the fuck happened to the robot. But like the setting
Maybe.
itself sounds the same to me.
There's a
But,
few.
like-
There's
But like there being something weird psychoactive going on is what I remember like having a single robot having, but I don't remember a cult. Like I don't
it
know
might
why.
have been one, or it might have been like there's a few on the station, and one of them is like the leader, like the religious
Or I
leader.
just have a bad memory and it's fine. It's
Yeah. There's a few. Yeah, there's like a bunch. I can't remember all of them.
like I don't remember how many short stories there were. I just remember I do remember the story of the robot who what the fuck was the context again? A robot was trying to become president and then
Yeah.
punched another person because that would defy the law. but like he got another person to punch the other person. There was something really weird shit going on where I was like, okay, did he not break the law after all? Man, I was really good at remembering that one.
Yeah.
I mean,
There's one in like I don't know if it's in like in the robot collection or something. There's like a like
yes.
there's a president who was assassinated, and
that was
just after he's assassinated, he comes out and says, "It's fine, everyone. What was assassinated was like my robot body double, right?" And it's like it turns out that
the robot body double was actually the machine, or
well,
no,
like,
wait.
the robot body double was the real one.
Yeah.
Was the real president.
And the
then
body double was a human.
the body
No,
double.
another machine.
Yeah, so the one that got killed was the real human. The president was a robot now, but the president that was a robot now was, I think, being like his secretary, not the vice president, like his secretary was like a real person who was like now controlling the robot president as if he was the real president.
Yeah, the point is I really like this. The point I little remember.
So it's like the human assistant got the president killed so that he could basically run the country in secret. By basically he just tells the robot president what to do. Or something like that.
Wait.
Like,
are we remembering anything correctly, or just making shit up?
This, I think you might not have read. I think this is another story
It could be.
in the same universe.
I'm just like, how many stories about robot presidents could there be?
Yeah. And there's one. What was it? There's another one.
Oh, don't you start. There's another robot president?
Oh, there's a funny one where it's like, in the early years of like the Foundation, sort of galaxy, when it's still like Earth and they're like, you know, developing the first robots and stuff.
Okay.
They make like massive ones, like huge, like city-sized,
Fuck you,
like
spaceship.
supercomputers, right?
Oh, stupid computers.
And basically what one of the engineers does is he gets like a supercomputer to access all the like information on the planet to find him his like ideal like wife, right?
what a worthwhile.
But then, yeah, but like he's like, okay, robot, okay, collect all women of age, like 24 to 35. Remove all blondes, like remove all like under the height of 5'4".
He's using the fucking supercomputer as Tinder. What?
But yeah, so it's literally Asimov invented Tinder, right? So he goes through this whole thing, and he's like keeps getting like bad results. Like they kind of look how he wants, but they're not the right personality or something.
Sure.
So what he does is he starts adjusting.
That is the problem with like how people use dating apps. They think they're gonna get results that they want.
Yeah. So
They think, like the first mistake is thinking you know what you want.
yeah. So the
Turns out to
engineer
look terrible at.
starts adjusting the robot to think more like him. So what he's doing is he's training an AI
Supercomputers and
model.
AI. Okay.
Yeah, so he's training the supercomputer AI model to basically be a replica of him, so that he'll think how he does and be able to pick.
What a retarded waste of resources.
Yeah, so he's like head engineer and he's like using it to find his wife.
This is so stupid. I love it.
What happens is that the robot finds the perfect woman because it thinks like him and has all it can like make the decision. Okay, this is the right person for
I don't
the
care
guy.
whether or not he managed. What the fuck is wrong with this dude?
Yeah. So, but what happens is the robot is basically now like the guy. They think the same, right?
Sure.
So what the robot does is gets the guy killed and then sets
Finds
it
his
up
own
so
wife.
sets up the woman to be reallocated to work on the supercomputer because the robot has like fallen in love with the woman. So the robot basically organized it so now that the woman will be spending time with the supercomputer all the time.
Damn right, Giga Chad.
Because he's in love with, yeah. So he wants the woman for himself.
Oh, that's so stupid. I love it.
Yeah. So, and that's like one of the short stories in, I can't remember.
Dude, that's a fucking great premise. Why don't people make movies of this? They probably do, and they just fuck it up, make it uninteresting somehow.
I see everything.
That's a fucking great premise, though.
Yeah. So it all worked, and it's like, but the robot fell in love as well as the guy did, and then he just wants to spend
Yeah,
time.
of course,
with
man's turning him into a copy of him, then why wouldn't he?
I'm not sure if he got him killed or reassigned. I think he got him
Yes.
killed. I think it was like an accident, so he got him killed, but I don't know.
Accident, wink, wink, huh?
Maybe reassigned, yeah. Yeah. But there's a bunch of good, like, the short
Man,
stories are the best.
you read good books.
Yeah.
Thanks for
That's
giving me
what
the
I
summary.
That's what I do at work. I just sit on the computer reading books.
Giga Chat.
Yeah.
Does your work know?
Yeah, well, no, but yes and no. I'm just sitting there at the desk, like, in between.
They know you have
so-
downtime. They don't really care about how you spend it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And are you happy with how you spend your downtime?
Yeah.
Strong opinions, I hear.
It's like I'm currently reading another book, but it's like 1,300 pages, and I'm like 700 in, and it's like really long, and I'm like, I haven't read it for
Is
ages.
it worth the
Like,
investment?
that's the thing. It's like I kind of feel like
It might not be.
it's like it's good,
But is it good
then
enough?
I want to see kind of what happens, but then it's like
Stand with me.
it's just really long. So it's kind of
A chore to get through?
think of like a fantasy world where it's like, you know, it's sort
I
of
can't
like
do
this
that. You think I have that kind of an
Think of
imagination?
it. Imagine a thing like Kenshi, right, where you have like humans and some alien races kind of mixed together, and it's like a.
Your obsession
alien
with the
planet.
lore of Kenshi is like mind-boggling.
No,
to
but
me.
it's
like-
easy to like explain. So
yeah, but this is really funny how that is like your go-to description almost. It almost
Think of,
doesn't matter
like,
what it
yeah.
is, you'll somehow make it about Kenshi is what it feels like.
Think of like a medieval era, like the planet of Kenshi with the different races, right? Like humans
Sure.
and but it's like medieval. There's no like it's like they're all kind of, you know, just simple
You have
warfare.
factions who call themselves like paladins and shit, even though it's like in the future.
Yeah. So, but then just think of it as there's no like previous history of like advanced civilization. They're just different races of sort of like bipedal, you know.
Okay.
Also, that the humans are kind of like on that planet, but they weren't originally from that planet.
You know, Lord of the Rings also had other races, right?
Yeah, but this is more. It's kind of because Kenshi, the humans weren't originally from that planet. They were like put there.
Oh,
They sort of
I remember that,
landed.
okay.
They like landed there, and then they kind of
Okay,
integrated.
since I don't actually fucking understand the lore of the game, you basically have to explain your argument almost every time you bring it up, which makes it additionally funny that you keep bringing up Kenshi.
Well, just think like so you've got like an alien planet with alien like humanoids, but then humans were put on there, right?
Yeah,
basically- yeah.
humans are the aliens. That's also the premise
humans are
for Gears of War, which I kind of like, because you sort of like you have the innate assumption that humans are the defenders, and it turns out they're actually the invaders.
No, I didn't. When did they say that?
I don't actually know. I just remember my friend telling me, I was like, that's actually a pretty good twist, because
Yeah.
you sort of operate on autopilot playing through a lot of games just because of previous experience, so that's actually
That's cool.
a pretty good subversion. Yeah.
So like so the humans are like the invaders, but the humans on the planet have no idea that they used to be from somewhere else. They just this is the same. Like
Okay.
there's like
I wonder if it's the same with Gears of War, because it's not clear how long they've been there or how long the war's been going on.
So like the time period, like the setting is like medieval, so they just have like boats and castles and things. but the story in the book keeps like it goes back and forth because basically there's like.
I mean, we're in modern day. We don't have castles, but we sure shit have boats. So the fucking boats part is a little...
Well, like shit, you know, Viking shit.
Oh, you don't have to. Oh, okay, sure.
Like medieval. Like,
Sail ships.
Yeah. No electricity, no
Then again,
engines.
they have some practicality because of like a fuel. Yeah, I guess. Yeah. Primitive technology.
Yeah, and then the story moves back and forth because there's basically a space station orbiting the planet that's like watching the planet,
I see everything.
like observing it.
Huh?
And what they're doing is they're like streaming.
I think you need to explain that again. What?
There's a space station orbiting the medieval planet.
Okay.
Right.
That feels a little Kenshi too. There's just like things in orbit that people don't have.
But yeah, and like, but the people on the planet don't think of it as a space. They don't see it as a station. They think it's just like a star in the sky, right?
Yeah.
So they have no clue, right?
Okay. Did Kenshi ever explain how the fuck there's like orbital lasers just going across the surface?
Well, it was it's like basically they turned on the lasers to like defeat people, and then they died, and they couldn't turn them off, so they just keep going.
Yeah, but what the fuck is the fuel source? Because like it sort of reminds me of the.
Radioactive.
Okay. But if it's solar, then they might as well use mirrors. Like I remember that being a setting in a sci-fi book that my dad liked, except instead of a giant laser, it like heated up the circumference of the planet, so that people had to be like permanently nomadic and follow like the hot zone in order to not die. And everywhere else is like frozen.
Because there's like some crashed ones, I think, in that area in Kenshi. I think they're either like giant mirrors or lasers. They're just still going.
I mean, I straight up do not know. Like, I've never read up on any of this shit.
They might be like radioactive. There might be like radioactive, like nuclear power plants on there, like fueling.
Okay.
But like the technology of like future Kenshi, like when they had spaceship, is like crazy advanced. So the story, it keeps going back and forth between like the fantasy medieval world and like what the characters in there and all they're doing. And then it goes to the space station, like space station observing, and they're seeing all the like big wars and things playing out. But they're basically watching the planet and streaming what they're watching back to Earth for people on Earth to watch, like entertainment. So
Okay.
it's like, imagine if Game of Thrones was just on another planet and we were watching it live, you know? And but then because of like the distance in space and everything, there's like 1,000-year gap between the like transmissions. So like Earth gets it 1,000 years after it actually happened on Heliconia, which is the planet. Right.
What is it?
So
One was Pelaconia.
Heliconia.
L-E?
H-E-L.
Heliconia.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And so
Don't know how the fuck I heard your H as a P, but you know, that's pretty. Apparently, I heard a lot of oomph behind it.
But like on the space station, they've been on there for like, I don't know, like 600 years or something, or 4,000 years, or what? I can't remember. But like, so the
That's
people
a pretty long time.
They live on the space station. There's like their civilization and society is just on the space station for like 100,000 years or whatever. And over time, they've kind of like. They've managed to sort of, you know, they get bored just staying on the planet, and the reason they can't go down to the planet and like really go there is because the like diseases and infections and things, like as soon as they land there, within like a few days, the germs are like, they have no antibodies to it, so they just die because they just get killed really quickly by basic germs.
Feels like a technological society should be able to create antibodies, etc.
Yeah, but they can't go there and get them or something. I don't know.
They aren't that advanced.
Yeah, they kind of have like transport.
The other people are advanced. The technology is being kept from these people, though. Isn't that sort of the setting?
Or it's like because the space station was set up. It was what, like 2,000 years ago, and then maybe on Earth they've had like 1,000 years to advance because they have more resources, and the space station doesn't really have much like resources. They can just sort of recycle things. Or...
Oh, I think I got it backwards. I thought the space station was advanced than Earth itself, it was not.
Well, think of it like the space station was made like
Oh, it's all
4,000
itself,
years
so
ago.
they don't really have understanding of the technology.
So like the people on the space station don't know what's going on Earth.
Okay,
Because it's almost like there's a 1,000-year communication gap.
sure.
So they could send a signal, but it could take 1,000 years to
Yeah,
get.
gotcha.
So they've been streaming live the planet and what's going on it back to Earth for like thousands of years.
For entertainment purposes.
Yeah, like literally in the book it's called
not
like
educational or anything, just
it's, it's called edutainment. So it's like educational entertainment.
edutainment is stolen.
Yeah.
It's
And
a
so,
real
like-
word. I invented it. I demand royalties.
And what over time what's happened is that people
You
on the
almost have a
space
tone
station,
of what you have to do is.
like they've kind of gotten bored, or like what they've done is they've developed this like incentive for people where it's like there's a lottery every, I don't know, year or every few years or something where
Were you about to say a year or whatever the fuck?
yeah. So every like you win the lottery, you can go to the planet. You will die. You'll just go there and die. But it's like you'll actually like live a life and like kind of experience something real that's not just on the space station. So it's like people want the freedom of like, you know, going down to the planet and doing what they want, or like. And in the book, what's happening is basically this guy, he won the lottery, and the reason he wants to go to the planet is because the queen of one of the continents, he basically wants to like have sex with her. And like he's in love with her because he just watches her all the time on the screens, and people just like watch everything that's on the planet. So like they just go down, he just goes down there and lands there and like tries to look for her and gets lost and gets captured. And so like there's this kind of weird thing where they're not really supposed to like go to the planet and give them technology or like change anything, but like they send them down there with like replicated like like clothing and swords, and they look like they're normal citizens of the planet, and they've learned the language because they're just on the space station listening, so they can understand the language of all the people on the planet. And but like that's what, like, I'm halfway through the book and there's so much has happened, but it seems like there could be lots of interesting things that happen later, like the space station crashes, or they develop technology and then maybe people believe that there's a space station. And there's this huge like
3,000
racial
pages.
war thing.
What
And,
was
like,
300 pages? Just...
yeah, so like I'm halfway through it and it's like it's really slow because they do like time jumps and like.
Oh, so it's like a Foundation series shit where it says
Yeah, in one book. Yeah.
in one. Okay.
So it's like the first sort of stories are like, oh, this man, we like lived in the caves and we had like this cave society and there were priests, and then 100 years later it's like the great guy who escaped the cave, like we're his ancestors and we founded this city, and then 100 years after that it's like.
Yeah, that's the
like,
problem I had
yeah.
with Foundation. Like, it just jumped, didn't give me any fucking
Yeah.
emotional anchor, and it also stopped exploring the actual fundamental idea itself. So it's like
Yeah.
I'm getting less and less out of this by the second.
So it's like it's jumping,
Uh-huh.
but then at the moment it's been on this one sort of group, like one period of time and characters for ages. So it's like maybe they'll jump again, or maybe they won't. So it's.
Ooh, how exciting.
Or maybe, yeah,
Will
so
they,
it's
won't
up
they?
then. Yeah, so it's kind of. It's interesting for the sci-fi ideas just to see kind of how they do things, or how things might change, or.
Yeah, but if they start moving away from the
Mystery,
point, it's
maybe?
like it gets. Like, again,
Yeah.
the reason I'm calling these
Well.
sci-fi is that they have ideas worth exploring. If they're no longer exploring it, what the fuck should I read?
Yeah, they kind of are and they aren't. You know what I mean? So it's like. But
Yeah,
when
because they're trying to juggle other things in order to like
Yeah.
spice up the narrative and shit, but then they
Yeah.
don't realize like how fucking boring some of that shit is.
Yeah, because it's like you're kind of reading about like, oh, the king and the queen had to divorce because so the king could marry like a woman, like the princess from another
cares?
country. And you're kind of like, you basically wanted to get to the
Hostage.
points with like the space station, because the space station is a bit more like linear and like it's kind of
I wonder who this
more
looks to be
consistent
from.
because
I
you're basically looking at the whole situation from like a much further distance. So you don't really care about the characters. You're starting to just care about like the
yeah, that's my point.
overarching
Like when you're
series of events.
when you're making
Yeah.
some sort of fucking grand narrative,
Yeah.
when you start scoping it down, you need to have a really fucking good reason. Now, this is just to tell me about this fucking priest that is there for like
Yeah.
half a page. I'm gonna fucking scream.
Yeah. So it's kind of it's good, but then it like just
That's good, but then it isn't. So like whatever.
it's just heavy. You know what I mean? Like
Hard to
long.
get through.
Yeah.
Well, I hope it's worth it. Damn shame if you're wasting
'Cause
your
it's like,
goddamn time.
that's the thing, is like I want to finish it now because I'm like 700 pages through it. So it's like,
Oh yeah, it's too late to quit now, Isaac.
yeah, I'm like, oh god.
I like how similarly you think about these things.
But then also because it might be because it spans across time. I feel like it's good sort of insight into like world building and stuff, or like
Who, me?
no the book.
Oh.
So like the book itself, it's like interesting in terms of like how, you know, like something will affect a planet in 100 years, or how countries are like, because there's this thing where there's like two suns that orbit the planet, and then so they have this kind of weird thing, like every 4,000 years one of the stars gets really close, so the planet goes through these like 1,000-year long seasons instead of like every year there's like 4 seasons.
Yeah.
You might still have that, but it's like
Like, that's basically the implication with Game of Thrones, that the fucking
Yeah.
winters are getting longer, so something's out of whack.
so that's kind of, it's interesting where they have this setup where like, because there's such a huge time period, and like when the sun is really close and everything burns and everyone's like living underground or in caves, the knowledge is lost, and then like so any kind of religious or like hints of things of like the cycle of the 1,000 years of like cold and shit will come back and things. So like it's like information's lost and regained in weird ways, and like well that's kind of like, imagine if you like the Bible, and then in the Bible it says like the great flood is coming. And now we're like, oh, that's just Noah's Ark. It's just a flood, whatever. But say like every 10,000 years there's a flood on Earth that's happened for like 1 million years. We just don't know about it because everyone died basically in the last one.
Wasteland 3 had a kind of fun... I actually regret not finishing it, because it was good. I was close to finishing it. But, it had this post-apocalyptic American setting, but it had like this weird Americana where you had like Christians and then they're like twisting the belief of the Bible, and there's gonna like Noah's Ark was like a flood of water, but the apocalypse was a flood of fire, and there might be like a third like apocalyptic flood according to them. So you have like people who are playing prophets and other weird things in that setting.
Yeah.
And they fetishize American culture to such a degree that it is like a religion in and of itself. And then they're like playing... like some of it is like Christian church music. Some of it is just like American old folk songs and shit.
Yeah.
And it just gives it this really weird tone. Like one of them is even played like during a boss fight. I'm like, this is kind of bossing. I kind of like this. It gives it a really specific sort of feeling.
Yeah. And it's cool. Like, and in the book, it's kind of because they're basically like.
I think you should try the game. Honestly.
Yeah.
I think it's often on sale. Like, it's just one of those games I keep seeing on Steam, I think. Anyway.
Yeah. Well, like
Okay.
in the book, there's like two main races where you have like humans, and then there's this other one they call like Ancipitals, but it's basically like beastmen. Like they're kind of
Okay.
they look like Tauren kind of, but more like white fur and a bit thinner and more. They have those like like hooved legs like satyrs, like their legs bend the other way sort of thing.
Sure. Ancipitals?
Ancipitals, that's what they're called. I think it means like bipedal or like some sort of
Committed to
That
memory.
is
Shower me with praise.
not correct in my brain, but
With me.
double-edged.
ancip. Like, do you mean the way the legs bend, maybe?
Yeah. Well, there's something to do with how they move because they like walk slightly weird. Like
I mean, like, the closest phonetic equivalent I can think of is like occipital, which has to do with the ocular. So ancipit, like, what is the ancip? I don't know.
well, like how like ostrich legs bend the other way.
No, that's not the point. I'm just talking about like what the meaning of the word itself is. Like, we don't have to talk about it.
No, I don't know. I can't remember. Yeah, but like so, there's basically this like rivalry where like the humans hate the Ancipitals because what happens is like when it's like nice warm weather and like the sun is closer and it's like good for humans, that like the Ancipitals, because they're like more evolved for like the cold seasons, like when it's like ice age for like 1,000 years.
Yeah.
They like swap the like power dynamics where the humans have all the power in the summer and then the Ancipitals have all the power in the winter because they're like evolved for both, like one's evolved for each. And so they have this like genetic, almost like super historical like rivalry where they just hate each other. And like, but weirdly how the Ancipitals, what happens is like when they die, they don't really die, they kind of like
Shine.
go into like this weird like crystal like hibernation where they basically like shrink down into like a stone form almost.
The ancipitals.
Yeah, like it's like a mega hibernation where they just like crystallize and then
A form of cocooning.
yeah, and then in like in like 1,000 years they come back out again when it's like what you call it, like winter. So it's kind of this weird system they have where like so one of the Ancipitals can be like 1,000 years old because like 2,000, 5,000, 10,000 years old because they like live, and then when they're kind of sick or whenever the summer starts coming they like freeze back down and then they come out again in the next 4,000 years or whatever. But then they're like they can pass knowledge between each other, so they have a system of like preserving knowledge because they like
I think they call it
Go
book
into-
size. Like, you're even reading it to get that information.
Curiosity
Say again?
deserves a reward.
we'll say that again.
You're talking about they have a way of passing down knowledge, and I was saying, yeah, I believe that's called book size. Like, it's the thing you're reading.
But then you can't really keep books when there's like the whole planet's on fire, so all the paper like burns. So it's like
Stone books.
but then they have a way to communicate with each other
iPads. Okay,
when
fine.
they're in the like crystal form, so like
Okay.
the living ones can like talk to almost like a hive mind maybe, but like
Ooh.
maybe not like the whole planet, it might be just sort of close by. So like you'll have like a priest woman of the Ancipitals will like ask questions.
Those
and,
do
like,
not
talk to-
overlap. Pick one, priest or woman.
Oh. So like there's
I don't know why I'm
and-
saying oh as if like I'm owning women. Like, the point is like there's a bit of a history there.
But
Generally
but
speaking.
yeah, and it's like, but in this current part of the book, there's this like king of one of the continents, a human, who's like has this like he doesn't hate them, like the Ancipitals, and he thinks they're like there's nothing wrong with them, they're just different. And like all the other humans sort of hate him because he gives like favoritism to them and lets them kind of work in his army and like in his country and palaces and stuff. And so like I
Wait,
like the idea.
the Ancipit is giving humans favor? I don't.
No, the other way around. There's a human king giving Ancipitals favor and like treating them as like equals almost. And all the other humans are like, this is bad because they're historically like the same way that like humans hate snakes because snakes, you know, just like it's like that basically.
I just imagine a society where this king is so fucking insane. It's like, yeah, snakes are people too, equal rights for snakes.
That's basically what they think. They're like, they see them as like simple, like
Yeah. No, I get your point.
animals.
It's just the imagery is better the other way around.
Yeah.
It's like, what? It's like, why the fuck are the snakes everywhere in the street? We gotta go anywhere without getting bit. This is like absolute anarchy. The fucking shit that I'm envisioning is so stupid.
And like what's happening now in the book is like that there was one of those people from the space station went down to the planet, won the lottery, and like, you know, he's gonna
The
die.
space station.
Yeah, a guy came like
Is the number 13?
no, they would all be dead by then. If it was that.
Have you tried the game yet? You were interested, weren't you? Because of the
Steam,
figure.
right? No.
Okay. We both agree though. That is a fucking story engine.
Yeah.
Shit's funny.
That's kind of what this fucking
Book
book
is
feels like. Because
a
it's like
story engine that just keeps fueling.
he's gone down to the planet, and what's basically happened is that like a group of the Ancipitals have like got a hold of him, and like because they've have all this shared knowledge and they've been alive for like hundreds of thousands of years, and they have all this like understanding of the cycles and things. Like
Yes.
and he also has all the like technological information, and he's from another planet, and so like they could somehow maybe like break this cycle of like they might be able to advance technology in some way where like they can sort of develop the civilization instead of it like every 4,000 years it just gets all destroyed because there's like a massive ice age followed by like an inferno of the whole planet, so everything's just gone apart from like small tribes of people underground, and they just kind
You
of
could handle
repopulate
that.
every time. So then that's
you
kind of
with your
what-
fucking insulation. I still remember
yeah.
fucking going to Stockholm and like during like fucking minus 30 degrees, and you're just like completely unfazed. You're like a fucking modern day mammoth. Like what the fuck?
Yeah. So that's, but then they do cool stuff in the book because it's like they talk about like there's certain countries on the planet where when the sun is at the closest to the planet, like this specific country is in a kind of temperate zone where it's not that bad, so they actually get like an advantage for like 200 years because their whole country isn't on fire. So like it's interesting. You want to see how things play out.
You're saying like a technical advantage, not like a political favor.
Yeah, like
advantage.
technical, like they can grow crops still, and there's not like fucking trees just setting on fire randomly.
Yeah, but that's that was sort of presumed on my part, so I thought you were explaining something.
But then it's kind of like interesting. Oh, what will happen
Because
now?
you were talking about like how the Ancipitals and humans were like trading dominance depending on the season and
Yeah.
shit, so I was wondering if you were still on that sort of topic.
But it kind of is cool, like, because the Ancipitals almost know what's going to happen. Because they have this knowledge they've kept for so long, and they kind of don't really
The
die.
humans aren't able to pass the knowledge on, they're just like,
Yeah.
well, I guess we're fucked, and okay.
They like restart every time.
No wonder they think it's bad to give them any sort of advantage.
Yeah. And so like, and there's all these hints of like underground human societies where they like avoid all the problems, and they.
Yes,
like,
the mole people.
Yeah, and it's like they kind of hint at like
Oh, do you mean underground as in hipster?
no, like
And they're not
like
popular?
like under the earth. You know what I mean?
Sure.
In the crust of the
I
planet.
just really think it's funny describing a society as like
They all listen to funk
non-mainstream.
music. Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's lots of. It's like I want to see what happens, but it's kind of.
Taking so long.
And they're talking. It's like they're getting into like actual like character drama. Like, oh, didn't want to have to divorce my queen, but I have to divorce her so I can marry a princess of another country. So like everyone's at peace
Oh,
now.
I thought you were about to say that the king went full Ancipitos. Like, I need to divorce my queen so I can marry my furry partner.
Well, that's actually what happened because like there's like other races that are kind of like
Dude, that is
like
juicy drama.
demi-humans.
Dude, imagine a human divorcing. Wait, fuck. We have seen this. Divorcing their wife to marry their horse. Nightmare day wife.
So like there's like demi-human sort of things, and then like interbreeding where like so the princess he's gonna marry, she's like half human, half like demi-human, and then
Half demi-human. That's half. Okay.
yeah, like half. And then like weirdly, there's all this shit with, like those demi-humans, how they kind of live is they're very like nomadic, and they like pair up and they just sort of travel the whole fucking planet and they never stop and they don't have any belongings. They're just kind of like
The Incipitals, you say?
no, the demi-humans.
Oh, because they're not welcome anywhere.
Well, no, they're like really dumb. They're kind of stupid and they're like migrating animals. They're like herds, but they're kind of like.
Okay, so they're like they're genetically defective or some shit.
Well, imagine like.
Like, why are they stupid?
Well, think like in between
Inbred?
like. No, I think like in between like
Inbred.
orangutans and humans.
Okay.
So like they're like Neanderthals, but like stupider. So they're
That's
kind
true.
of just like simple, and they just travel the world and they don't stop anywhere and they don't like.
You're so fucking racist, even towards races that don't even exist. I think, what the fuck?
But then what happens is like the king's
You're the type
son.
of guy to invent a race just to be racist towards them. Sorry, but
Well, I wouldn't be racist, but there'd be another race in the world that's racist to them.
yeah, exactly. They're your proxy
Yeah.
to act as your fantasy of races.
Yeah. Exactly.
Okay, well, I'm glad we're on the same page.
So like the king's son is like he just hates living in their palace and he like joins the like demi-humans and like just joins their migration, just wanders about and like
Giga Chad.
he's fucking weird. Yeah, he's like he kind of starts becoming like them and learning how they talk because they have a weird language and no one can learn, but then he's like spends all his time with them, so he starts learning and like yes, but he goes crazy, sort of weird, and yeah. So there's all this shit going on in the book, and it's like interesting, and you want to know how it plays out, but then it's like you're just waiting for the good bits, and then it's like really because it's quite an old book. There's like loads of funny like language and how they talk about it and how straightforward they're like the sexes and like how. Or like there's.
But is it written in a way where it doesn't feel like it's short? Because I feel like that has a lot to do with the enjoyment of having to wade through such a big book.
It's but I think it's just because it's so like heavy. Like, oh, there's
Is
just
it
so
too
much. of it.
direct? Is it not like playful with the language? Is what I'm asking.
It's a bit direct. Yeah, it's not like a comedy. It's
Sure.
kind of it takes itself seriously, but then it's like kind of. There doesn't really seem to, when there's like highs and lows in a story, like peaks and valleys.
Never
It's all
experienced
very,
it. It's very
all very,
consistent.
yeah, it's like
Uniform.
always good. And like the revelations are never really like
Proper twists.
emotional. They're like sciencey, like interesting, or like, oh, that's a cool thing.
I don't mind
like,
that, but yeah.
yeah. So, but then it kind of drags on, you know.
I mean,
Is
they
yeah.
can be both. Like a big scientific revelation can like recontextualize a previous dramatic event.
But then there's just so many interesting ideas in there, like how societies would behave in certain situations where, like, there's ones where when it's kind of still the ice age, and they're sort of the humans are coming out, like it's not super cold, but it's like really cold. Where there's this like practice of when every person is basically like sewn into their clothes.
Eh?
So like imagine you got a massive like fur suit, right? And because
I
it's
think
so
the king
fucking
has.
because it's so fucking cold.
Yeah.
Like, you can't take your clothes off, otherwise you'll like freeze to death.
Okay.
So what they do is they
I feel
basically
like you didn't
have,
appreciate my joke there, but okay.
I didn't get it really.
The king's a furry.
Oh.
So of course they'd have a
Well-
fucking massive fursuit.
I guess, yeah. I didn't connect.
I'm giving
the
comedy golden.
fursuit with furries, yeah. And the king.
Well, now you do. Now laugh.
I don't laugh, remember. What was so? Yeah, that's like sewn into their clothes. So basically, they just have like.
Wait, the
flap.
fursuit is. I don't.
So say you've got like your like furs you wear, right? In the old like
Okay.
cavemen, they'd wear furs, right?
Yeah, sure.
So instead of having like a t-shirt,
I
you can
just
take
want
off,
to make it clear, like what we were talking about. Like I didn't lose the thread. It is the fursuits you were talking about
Yeah.
sewn into their
So-
clothes. Wouldn't the
so it's like-
fursuits count as their clothes?
That's it. So like, they imagine you've got like t-shirt and jeans, but you can't take them off. They're like sewn onto you, like a onesie. Like you can never take it off, right?
Okay.
Because it's so fucking cold. It's like you're never gonna take it off. So just in case you don't like slip out of it, or someone takes it off of you, or rips it off to kill, and like pushes you outside. Like you're just always in it, right?
Okay.
They have like flaps for to shit and piss and stuff.
Really, you don't piss and shit inside the fursuit. So not real furries then.
So then, but then what happens is like they transition into the summer part. So it's like just as the ice age is ending and it's becoming summer, what you get is like
You deserve.
a society that's like super conservative because there's no nudity ever. Like no one has ever seen anyone naked apart from when they're like a baby, right? So like
Okay.
you're
Does
so you're
sex
like
not exist?
no, it does, but then there's just like the flaps where you just open it and fuck each other and then have the
Ray
baby. And, like,
outlines your
Just like real
never-
life.
you never see like someone's legs, right? You never see like breasts really, apart from breastfeeding, and like
Damn.
you don't see anyone's butt or anything. It's kind of super conservative because there's no like sexual, like full naked
Sexual,
bodies.
yes.
And so like there's a thing there's a scene in the book where it's becoming summer and they're changing how they operate and it's too hot to wear the furs, and like the main character and like his love interest
Are
and,
people getting a little rapey?
well, no, she's like realize she takes her furs off and then she's like swimming with her like other female friends, and they're like, oh my god, you're like, I've never seen someone naked, and like the other woman's like, oh, I'm gonna take mine off, and they're like skinny dipping basically. And then
I believe that's for the guys reading the book.
he comes across it, right? He sees them, like skinny dipping, and like the book, it's like he's like losing his mind because he's like never seen a naked woman before.
And he's like losing self-control.
Yeah, and like he just like he goes up to her and then they're sort of dating or like flirting or whatever, and it's basically like he basically like she touches him and then he just like comes all over her like instantly because he's just like lost his mind.
Why
Right?
is this in the book, Isaac, and why are you reading it?
Because it's like it's like super not serious, but like they're describing the exact like the realistic things that happen. It's like
And this was the part you needed to read.
well, it was like in the book. Like I read the whole book, right?
Somebody put it in there.
Yeah. But then
thought-
it's like
This, this book needs more sex appeal.
well, it's because it's also like
Let mine end.
hinting at the idea that
Stand with me. Out of my way.
for 1,000 years, no human has seen another human like fully naked.
sure.
And then it's like they still have the same like pathways in their brain that thinks, okay, like this is attractive and this da da da.
Sure.
And it also means that like they transition
How
out of
many
winter.
1,000 years?
I think it's like a 4,000-year cycle or something.
Okay. Yeah, that's probably not enough for genetics to start changing.
No. So then, but what happens is like, because they've all been in this like super conservative mode, that it becomes summer when there's like abundance of like food and everything. because now they're all like super like sexually charged because they're like
Hell yeah.
everything's irresistible because they're like, oh my god, everyone looks so amazing, like just sleep with everybody. So like that's
All
when
of them need to
hu-
go to horny jail.
yeah, that's when like the humans start becoming more like the bigger side because it's summer and they can like
Reproduce.
live comfortably outside and reproduce, and like so it kind of it's this kind of like almost like humanity as a whole has this kind of like seasonal like mating season weirdly, where it's as the weather gets better, humanity like takes over the whole world in like a really quick way to like balance out the fact that like the Ancipitals like really struggle with heat because they're like, you know, furry and like hair, like they're like
Fur goes both ways. Like it can insulate from heat as well. Like it's not.
yeah, but then
But-
they like because of how they've evolved and stuff like the Ancipitals hate water. They can't be wet, and it's
Okay.
like, and they just don't. They're like their hunting season and how they.
Okay, so they never get wet in the winter. Nothing ever melts.
Not because it's so cold. It's like a desert because everything's just frozen. Yeah.
Okay. Pretty extreme.
Yeah, and because it's like they have an advantage in winter because the humans are like get cold easily and die in the winter and they don't and stuff.
Yeah, but you'd think some heat would transfer from them out unless they're fucking almost
Well,
cold-blooded.
that's why they have the where they like go into that chrysalis mode to
Yes.
avoid the summer. So like they haven't adapted for the summer. They've just like they go into hiding. They like hibernate in the summer basically. So they're not exactly evolved for it in the same way.
Let's light it up.
But then because the humans never used to be there when they were evolving, the humans kind of were put there. They didn't have an issue of like having to worry about like another race of people trying to wipe them out in the summer.
Who says there aren't benefits?
Because
to
I
a
wonder what
just-
that feels like.
Yeah. So what I'm trying to say is this book has loads of interesting stuff in it, but it's fucking long and it's really serious.
Yeah, I think that's
and,
that's been the conclusion for a while now. It's like that's not a revelation. I just like talking about it.
yeah, but it's like there's a lot of interesting ideas. And,
Jesus Christ! How, wait, all of this is in the same book.
Our bond is strong.
because it's like the space station, not the well, not the same book I said about the Dispossessed. This is the Helicania book.
Yeah, fucking hell. It's hard for me. Like, I've just been bombarded with ideas, and I can't fucking separate the
It's so like this
fact
book
from
is
fiction anymore. I was like,
so much.
it's all
fun
real.
stuff. Yeah.
So you've been really investing in sci-fi books lately, huh? Wait, how long have you been reading them?
Say again.
How long have you been on this sci-fi binge?
Since I started working at the gallery.
That's a few years. Weren't you
It's like
reading a little
year
before
and a
that?
half.
It sounds like there's a lot of these recently.
Well, yeah, like I've read science stuff, like I've read stuff before, but not
Yeah,
as much.
yeah, yeah. But you also had a bunch of other things, but now it seems like specifically sci-fi. Like
Yeah, well, no, I remember. Yeah. Well, I read the fantasy
you
one.
read
Remember
like
I told you?
Conan and shit.
Like
And,
the Malazan. That's all fantasy. The one I told you
yeah, but
about.
aren't you reading that now?
Not on the moment because it's like a 8-book series. So like
Yeah, but isn't that one also fairly recent?
yeah, that was recent as well. But that was fantasy, not sci-fi.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Eh,
Yeah, but it's mostly been sci-fi just because.
just cause.
Yeah. But then because I got bored of fantasy because I was reading like the Malazan, like there are 2 books of
burnt you
that.
out.
And, yeah, I think and I read one where it's like, you know, they're kind of like that, like Nausicaa setting where it's like the fall, like the society, similar to Kenji again, where it's like the technology has disappeared and there's just like remnants of a, you know, better
Yeah,
civilization.
I mean that isn't a That's a trope in and of itself.
Yeah.
Like, you technically even have fantasy settings where that's the case. Like, that's basically what
Yeah.
Lord of the Rings is. Like, the first and the second... Sorry, the second and third age keep referring to weapons from the first age that they can't recreate. Like, that's lost technology.
Yeah. So that's... But I read... I think I read a bunch of those. Like, let me see. Well, that's Malazan, isn't that? Malazan's just fantasy. But then you have,
Just fantasy?
yeah, there's no like sci-fi. Like, it's pure fantasy. It's like magic and demons and gods and things. And the one I read, the like execution, the Book of the Black Sun or something. That's the one with the like ancient technology that's like fallen into disrepair, like
Of the Black Sun.
Yeah.
Spooky name. You like?
What is it? No, it's not. What is it? It's like Black Wolf.
Book of the Black Wolf?
No, it's like, what the fuck is it called?
Wolf
It's like,
of the Black Sun.
no, it's like he's the guy who wrote it, it's like something.
Black
wolf.
of the Sun Wolf. Sorry. I think I'm more entertained than you are.
Book of the New Sun. Fucking
Let the world come alive.
There's another one. Yeah.
I'll settle this.
Gene Wolf, Book of the New Sun. Sorry, Black Sun.
Ah, yes, Gene Wolf.
And that one's fucking creepy as well, with like
Creepy, you say?
a woman who gets like rugged and turned into like a supermodel who like
Did you say
What?
rugged?
rugged.
Oh, drugged.
Everyone help me.
I was just like, is she packed up in a rug like fucking children do when they're bored?
Well, there's such that's like
That's
a
how she's
crazy
skinned.
like there's crazy ideas in that one with like like there's this like
Sorry,
emperor.
it's neither sci-fi nor fantasy, or what?
It's both. It's like it was like a sci-fi setting, and then it's like devolved and like all this like collapsed society, and then it's like fantasy now, but there's like ancient technology that kind of exists still, like Nausicaa.
Cool.
Like they can't make any new technology, but like they still have, you know, god weapons and spaceships and things that are like.
That feels Warhammery to me. I'm not sure how I like that
Yeah.
trope.
But it's this one. It's like way more.
You like that sort of setting?
Yeah.
Keep reading a lot of things like that.
Yeah, but then it's because it treats the technology like magic a lot of the time.
Yeah, that's basically why I don't like it.
But then this one is kind of, imagine like Star Wars, but then it like collapses into like medieval. So you have like weird like aliens that are just there, no one knows why, and like, well, it's kind of.
Time to shine. Our bond is strong.
So, like an example in this book of something weird, where it's like you have this like an emperor of the planet, right? And he has this huge like palace that can, I think it can like hover and like fly around the world, but no one knows how it works, right?
Okay.
And it lands somewhere, or like there's another huge palace it was built thousands of years ago and it used to be advanced, but it's all like shutting down now because no one can maintain it. And there's like a waiting room for like to meet the emperor, like, you know, you just like, you're gonna go and see him and you just go wait in the waiting room, you know, and then you're gonna.
Isn't that sort of what the throne room is for random people to meet the...
Yeah, so like, you know, the throne room, and then you have like a waiting room for
Okay.
like some entrance hall or something.
I just like remember scenes from movies and how the throne room stuff is structured. It just seemed like they wait
Yeah.
there basically in the throne
Think
room
of
itself.
think of it more like, but imagine like this palace or kingdom is like the size of the Death Star. It's like fucking ginormous. It's like impossibly massive, right?
Well, then there's a lot of space to queue.
Right. So what happens is the waiting room, right?
Okay, yeah.
Right. And it's so like huge and disconnected and like kind of unmanaged because society's like collapsed, right? The waiting room becomes its own like society. So like because the guards who are like looking after the waiting room have to get told by like the king to let in the next person, right?
Yeah.
But they never, the king, there's no king to tell them to let the next person in. So they've just been there for like hundreds of years, waiting in that room. And the guards keep like bringing them food.
A bureaucratic nightmare.
Yeah, so the guards like bring them food, and they like you know, release they bring the food in and people like fight over the food and stuff. And they have kids in that waiting room and they've only ever been in that room and they're all like white skinned and like so they can't leave because it's almost like it's a place where you like wait to see the king. So you put like prisoners in there who need to like, you know, face the king's justice and stuff. Or like it's like a holding cell for people as well as a waiting room. And like there's an automated thing where it's like, oh, okay, at this time the lights turn off because, you know, it's nighttime and there won't be anyone in the waiting room because it's nighttime.
This setting is funny to me.
But it's like the lights turn off, so it's pitch black, and like because it's all dark, like it almost becomes like a fucking what's the movie called? Like The Purge. Where it's like
that's exactly what I was gonna fucking say.
It's like no one knows what's gonna happen. Yeah, and like no one, it's like safe, and everyone's like,
it reminds me like the between moments in Squid Game.
Yeah, it's literally that. It's like Squid Game, and so you get, but then it still happens where like you get people that have been like generations of people that have had families and gotten born and like raised in that place, and then the characters in the book, they're just like put in there to wait, right, by the guards. And they're like, oh, how long will we be waiting in here? And then they're like, we've been here for 300 years. And it's like, they can't like tell the guards to let them out because I think the guards are almost like robots or like androids. So they just follow what their programming is. So they kind of like, once you get put in there, you never get out. And it's like fucking Squid Game. It's like an automated waiting room that you can't get out of. And it's like devolved into some like
who
insane.
the fuck comes up with these settings? It's pretty great.
Yeah, but that's like, there's so like
who the fuck it sits down to like, okay, I'm gonna write a book. What's it gonna be about? A fucking waiting room. Riveting.
No, this is like one or two chapters in the book. The rest of it's like.
I feel like that's one or two too many.
But like they get out of the waiting room, so like they like figure out a way out because everyone else in there is so like brainwashed that like you never escape because they've been in there for hundreds of years.
Sure.
Yeah, and it's like, but the book is so like
good.
It's good, but it's like dated and it's like creepy. Like the writer, it's like a rape scene, you know what I mean? But then it's not portrayed as a rape scene. It's kind of
okay.
It's basically everyone would call it rape, but then the author writes it as like
matter of factly.
It's kind of basically it's like the main character sleeps with one of the women that's been like traveling with them, but she's obviously like super high on drugs and doesn't know what's going on.
Yeah, that sounds like your kind of book.
It's even worse than that because it's like
like I said.
Like at the start of the book, like he basically like there's this woman who kind of agrees to come with them because she's like
agrees to come
stuck. She basically agrees to go on a journey with them because she's the kind of doesn't really have any options because like I think her family died or something, and so it's like she goes with them and then he splits off from the group and then she travels with two of the others that were with him, right? So there's two guys and a woman. They go off, you know, do their thing, and he goes on his adventure. And they meet up again. Eventually, like a while later, like maybe a year or years later or something. And then the two guys are still there, but there's this new woman who's like the most beautiful woman anyone's ever seen. And the book describes as like everyone falls in love with her. She's like super sexy and like breasts and like just like the most beautiful woman ever.
This
right?
feels like a Conan era book, if not just Conan.
Yeah, it is,
honestly.
yeah. It's like 98? No, it's
Or it's just like
Take a pose. Let my name
1980.
pointless gratuitous sex, and there it is, and then they move on. It's like,
Yeah,
I'm not sure how necessary this was, but it sure is there.
but it turns out that like that beautiful woman
Was actually a man.
that was the woman from the beginning. Their like friend they had at the beginning. But the two, so I said, there's a main character, two guy companions, and a female, like a woman who like her family dies and she goes on the adventure with them because she has nothing else, no other option, right?
Okay.
Then they separate. The two guys and the woman go off, and they're like a traveling
Get off, am I right?
theater company, right? And the main character's this, he's like an executioner. They meet up again years later, and the first woman's not there. There's like another new woman who's like the most beautiful woman in the world, right?
She got replaced fast.
Well, she was kind of replaced because what they did was they like drugged her and pumped her full of hormones and did surgeries on her to like turn her into this like super beautiful woman. So they like,
Okay, she's genetically modified and drugged out
Yeah.
of her mind to just be a
Yeah.
sex slave. Okay.
yeah, they basically, yeah.
You sure know how
They're
to
like-
pick these book size. Like,
But like to be like, she's like one of the beautiful actors for the plays because they're a traveling theater company. So she gets all the like, people want to come and see her do the performances.
oh, I bet they do want to come.
Yeah.
time to shine.
And then like, so you like at the end, the main character like realizes, and then he realizes that those two companions he was with in the theater company are like fucked up people and there's some weird shit with them, and
Find anything
they run
Now,
away.
why would you assume that?
And then she basically like deteriorates because she's not being like pumped from all the drugs anymore.
Like,
she, like-
physically and mentally? Or...
Yeah, like physically, like she starts turning back, and like, but she has all these like drugs keeping her going because she did these like crazy surgeries and shit, and like, so she starts like basically like dying, like you know. Sort
But people,
of like,
people keep fucking her, right?
but it's all, no, well,
This seems like that
he
kind of
slept with
book.
her, right? The main character slept with her. That's the one that was like drugged up. He slept with.
I don't know. This just seems like that kind of a book where it's just like, and then they fucked her till she died.
But it's kind of, you know, that like drug addiction thing where it's like she's withdrawal.
Sure.
But she's just been drugged up for years, and like, you know,
Yeah.
so she like slowly dies. So there's loads of other like fucked up shit in this book.
How do you like it? How do you
But
feel
again,
about
it's-
liking such a fucked up book?
Well, it's interesting ideas,
What does that mean? Try and put them into practice?
unique settings, and you know, strange ideas.
You're a strange idea.
But again, this is one of those series when I looked up like best fantasy books of all time. It's like
Bada bing, bada boom, there it is.
this one, Malazan, like Earthsea, Lord of the Rings.
Well, I'm glad Lord of the Rings is included.
It's not like Lord of the Rings at all.
And I like how Lord of the Rings shares the list with the fucking sex slave drug addict.
Yeah.
I'm sure this is what J.R.R. Tolkien would have wanted.
That's the thing. I feel like a lot of the books I'm reading are like Tolkien is super tame compared to like most fantasy and sci-fi. Like a lot of
Yeah.
it's written for adults, so there's all like sex and death and
Yeah, but that's not how I fucking measure maturity and
no, but it's like
adultitude.
yeah.
I
Is
know
it
a lot of
like-
people do,
ideal?
but that's not me, man. I'm a real adult. I measure it by the fucking stress it provides through eldritch knowledge I shouldn't be having.
Yeah. Should read Van Gogh's letters.
Van Gogh, you mean? Van Gogh.
Same thing. Same thing.
I thought you were supposed to be a fan. I can't even pronounce his name correctly.
Yeah.
You chump.
Mm.
Van Gogh.
Because his letters are kind of
Mad.
like, well, like yes and no, and like it's insight into his mind, but then it's kind of,
I wish I didn't have it.
it's like troubled kind of, but then you
I
kind
mean,
of see.
considering
It's
you
like,
transitioned to this topic after I said Eldritch knowledge, I'm assuming this is like information I wish I didn't have by the end.
Well, there's a lot of talk in it where it's like the way they talk is like because he's kind of like he like basically rescued a
I'm so
like
hungry
prostitute with a baby on the street in the winter and like paid for her like kind of she let her come and like live with him
right now.
and so like the baby survived, so he saved their lives basically, but then he describes her as like ugly and like
Yeah, I've heard about some of these fucking... Like, he focuses on things that are just like, why are you talking about this?
He's like, she's very simple looking and plain and like a, you know,
Yeah, it's like, how is that
boxy
relevant?
head
You're just here
and
to fucking, like, you're just here to help them, and now you're just insulting them out of the blue. Dude, wait, fuck. That reminds me of some of the funniest shit I've experienced recently. Playing Genshin Impact, the game in front of me right now. This is one scene that just had me absolutely lose my fucking mind when I started thinking about everything in context. There's like this fucking resurrection ritual that apparently like goes wrong, and there's like a festivity built around it. And again, it goes wrong, which means that one of the characters didn't get resurrected. And then you have people like talking shit like, oh, well, you only get resurrected if you pull off the mission successfully, so I guess they're a fuck up. And then they're like doing power squats and throwing gang signs while talking shit, and the person they're talking about is a fucking 6-year-old who got sent to the front line. So like, I'm just putting like more and more things together, like, this entire scene is fucked on so many levels I can hardly process it.
Yeah.
So like, you have adults doing power squats, throwing gang signs, talking shit about a 6-year-old child soldier who died for them.
Crazy shit.
Like, do you ever have moments like that where you're just putting things together and like... It's not like that one thing by itself is funny, but you suddenly have like a fucking brain blast where the entire chain gets set up and it's fucking ridiculous.
Think of an example.
It's like all the dominoes are getting set up and then suddenly you accidentally knock it over and it's like, oh my god! Okay, well, that was one of those for me. Hey, Isaac.
Well, yeah, I guess the fucking thing I just described with the woman drugged up and shit. Because it's like, you kind of read the scene of like when he like basically rapes her, and you don't think of it in this to start with, and you're like, you look back at it and you're like,
well, that was kind of weird.
Like the way it's written is he's just like he just like forced herself on it. It's like she looked great, so then I fucked her. And it's just like, okay.
Fucking modern day Shakespeare right there.
And it's such a weird thing because it's like there's this other love interest he's had for like the whole book, and like he like they go on this, they're like on some sort of boat ride with him and the like drugged up woman, and it's like, wow, she looks so amazing, and like they slept with her, and then when they like go back to the group, and then he just tells the other one, yeah, I slept with her, and she just like starts crying, and then he just doesn't give a shit, and it's like,
well, what the fuck was the point of all the build up with the other love interest?
Yeah, and it's like, but then he's like, he does like her, but then it's like, it's you don't understand his way of thinking. Yeah, it's like you don't. It's so random because maybe it's a case of like, because where they're on a boat ride is in the like royal palace, and there's this like massive royal occasion, but it's like these weird fucking royals that are like half alien and all this shit going on and robots and things. So you could think like maybe
you're thinking Mark Zuckerberg.
maybe they've
He's
all
not
been
actual
maybe
royalty.
he's
He's just
drugged.
very rich. Sorry.
Yeah. Or like maybe he's been like drugged as well. So like
Oh.
so like you think so
That's
maybe
why
they're
he's
just all
thinking
like high
skewed.
on shit. Yeah, and like they're all just going crazy and just like he's just not thinking straight because there's some sort of stuff in the air that's like fucking with him. But then that doesn't seem like it. It's not really presented like that. So it's just such a weird like it's just like, oh, we're gonna go for a walk and like, okay, we'll take a boat, and then he's just like, he looks at her and like she looks amazing, and then he can't hold himself back, and then he like enters her and like, and then they just go back to normal. And it's like, oh yeah, I fucked her, and then the love interest like cries and runs away.
He says open sesame and she just...
Lightning terrified.
But then like she forgives him like the next page.
I wish you would understand this reference. Then you have the secret discovery sound effect from Legend of Zelda. You probably don't know it, so then it's not funny, but it's fucking goddamn it. Diddly-diddly-doodly.
Yeah, it's such like odd, these weird like sexual random things that come in.
Interjections.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
like you
but
just don't
that's
get
sort
what
of-
they're about.
Again, it's something that I associate with that period and Conan books. Weren't the Conan books like that?
Yeah, but the
Because you
Conan
get some of
ones
this-
they've made more sense then, because
Okay.
it was like Conan saves a woman and then she's so happy and then they sleep together.
Okay.
Whereas it's like this one,
But,
it's just like
but he never got rapey himself, right? Like, I don't remember how...
no, like there was
Okay.
one where there's like a pirate queen who's like raiding the coast, and like she captures him, but then over time he's like shows out like he's really strong and really good warrior, and then eventually like she thinks he's so amazing that like she starts sleeping with him, and then like he becomes a favorite slave of her, and then I don't know, some like, so it all kind of has logical sense to it.
He becomes her slave?
Well, he's captured by the pirates that she's in charge of. She's like a pirate queen, and then
LeMayo.
because he's so
What
like
a
manly
cock.
and strong and a great warrior and and joins the pirates, that now she's like, oh, I want him. He's the strongest. And,
Okay, so this is the dummy mommy fetish part.
yeah.
Cool.
But then like in the book, I
I
was
think
saying
every
with
book
the
should have that.
drugged up one,
Is that right?
the drugged up one is just fucking out of nowhere. They're like exploring the royal palaces and looking for the emperor, and then it's like,
Yeah, and then
okay,
sometimes
let's
you
take
need a
this
fuck.
boat and- so let's take this boat, and then like they're just going down the river, and he's like, I'm gonna fuck you now, even though you're like passed out, and then it's like, where did that fucking come?
Well,
There was no hint.
What do you mean? Like, that's not surprising. That's when she'll have the least resistance. She's passed out.
Yeah. It's just fucking weird.
You're weird.
Hmm. I
Oh,
need to
don't
go.
fucking tell me you wouldn't.
I wouldn't.
And just to be clear, I'm supposed to believe that.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's no evidence that I would do that.
The fact that you fucking went to evidence.
You can't prove it.
I like how you just fucking made yourself look guilty for no reason.
There's no criminal charges were brought against me.
It's like, yeah, prove it.
There's no witnesses, okay? Show me the police reports.
What about the police reports of my heart?
You don't have one.
Guilty as charged.
I need to fucking go. So
Oh,
I'm
you
tired.
need to go? You
got a
need to
headache.
go? Yeah, me too. I've been laughing. Good talk. You around tomorrow?
Yeah, like, yeah. 'cause
Or
I
have
went
we
to gym
wasted so much
today.
time today that
No,
you
I'll
just can't?
be around, like, I'm free till like maybe like 8, 9 o'clock at night. Well, so yeah, I'm like free in the day. Yeah.
The day, huh?
The day. Yeah.
So you think you're not a beggar and can be chooser?
I'm letting you know, hey bitch. Morning day.
Fine, you
Well, like,
choose.
sort of early evening, I guess.
Let the world come alive.
Yeah, like 8 o'clock ish, maybe. So.
Wait, did you have Specific timestamps?
One of like 8 or 9, because I need to like make
know.
food for the next day and work the next day and
So much for the next day, Isaac. What about the current day? That's more
technically
important.
you're on Sunday now. So.
That is true.
You great.
You're so observant. This is why I love you.
Well,
Now bend over.
yeah. Let me just drug you first.
See, you get it.
Genetically alter you. Do some plastic surgery.
No, Isaac, you're perfect the way you are.
You're not. I am. You're not.
Thanks.
Minute to memory.
I'm the main character.
I don't know why we felt the need to point that out, but thanks.
Jeez.
You
Thank you for putting him in
sick
place. This is just another reason why I love you.
Yeah. We need to go on a boat ride and then drug you out.
Oh, right, yeah. Additional
Like an
context. Because what we're talking about isn't clear enough.
See everything. Stand with me.
Oh, I'm glad we agree.
Don't be scared of her.
Bye.
Okay, bye.
Strike a pose.
Ciao, Bella. I can't believe I left like that. This is just not acceptable. Man, I'm fucking hungry. Okay. So much llama. Fucking drama llamas. Okay.